What was the lowest reading on the survey?
The tax office, G105.
So Mr. Tosh's was being assigned from the lowest to the highest reading area. Am I correct? During his work hours?
Okay.
Was Mr. Tosh's assigned to G105 during his tour?
No, he was assigned to tax.
Tax.
G105 is a room that he set up or the other guys set up down there. He was not assigned to a room
Okay, where was the rest of Mr. Tosh's assignment throughout the day?
throughout the building.
Throughout the building. Was he assigned to the AFCSs?
Yes,
So Mr. Tosh's would work in the quietest location, room G105, the tax office, correct?
according to this, yeah.
When was Mr. Tosh's sent home? When Mr. Tosh's was sent home on May 10, 2011, where was he working?
I do not know.
Do you make any medical determinations?
No, I do not.
Why didn't the medical department make the decision as to what may be considered a low office noise environment?
I do not know.
Why wasn't this passed up to the District Reasonable Accommodations Committee to make that determination?
I do not know.
At this point in time, did you refer Mr. Tosh's to the DRAC?
I don't know if it was at this point in time, but he had been told several times of how to contact the DRAC, yes.
Did you generate any emails concerning Mr. Tosh's workman's comp claim that he filed on signed by Mr. Owensby on 5/9/2011?
I do not know based on the date.
Okay. Any emails regarding his return to work on May 17, 2011? You generated.
I'm not aware of this.
Did you generate any emails pertaining to sound level surveys in June of 2011?
When you say generated, you're saying that I initiated? Is that what
Did you
mean by
respond to? Did you?
that? I may have responded to, I don't know.
Did you initiate any emails?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Any emails discussing Mr. Tosh's restrictions with anyone in your email? Any emails discussing Mr. Tosh's restrictions with anyone?
I do not recall at this time.
I'm going to give you, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to give to you the ROI page 00157. I want you to look at an email that you sent on June 3rd. For the record, 00157 has it on one page.
Okay,
Mr. Johnson, look at the page number in the bottom. Is ROI 00146 correct? Or 00157 correct?
00157.
Who was copied in this email?
Kurt Tostage, oh, at the top. From Tostage. Conrad Johnson, Doug Diaz, Vince Strobel,
Okay.
looked like Larry McKee.
Okay. This email was sent to you by Mr. Tosh's on June 3rd, 2011 at 9:11 a.m., correct?
According to this, yes.
Part of this email, read down further, is part of this email from you to Mr. Tostage in a response.
According to this, yes.
At what time did you send out this response?
9/11 on June 3rd. According to the email.
Okay. Can you read through that silently and count the times you mentioned the word restrictions to Mr. Tostage in this email?
Eight.
How many times did you mention your restrictions?
Once that I'm seeing. Oh, two.
Two. Okay. How many times did you use the word accommodate?
I only see it highlighted once.
Okay. Could you please read the highlighted paragraphs on ROI 00157?
I will get with with your supervisor, Mr. Ornsby, on Saturday when he returns from his SDO to review what information he has that put you under any restrictions for doing your job as an ET. With that said, let me inform you that as an ET, minus any restrictions, you can be assigned to any and all work areas that ETs are assigned to. We do not have the manning to only work people in an area in which they want to work, in an area they wish to work. You, as all ETs, will be assigned in areas you are needed to do the day-to-day business of keeping these machines running and getting the mail out of the door. If your restrictions said that you cannot do the job, then there are programs that can be looked at for trying to provide you work for an employee that has restrictions, and we can visit them once I have talked to your supervisor, the medical unit in INDRICOM, to see what restrictions, if any, you have on file. The fact that you filed a grievance about who did tax work has nothing to do with your possible restrictions and what action you need to take to try and accommodate your limitations. That is a matter that will be worked out through the grievance process with the union. I am not sure what route you have been placed on, but I do not understand the statement normal routes. Any route that is required to be done daily, weekly, monthly, etc. are all normal routes, and you are assigned as you needed by the supervisor. As stated above, I will get with your supervisor to see what is going on and if there is a restriction to the work you can do, and we can provide work with the restrictions. Thank you for your opportunity to try and resolve this issue at the lowest possible level.
At this point in time, did you send Mr. Tossich's name up to the DRAC
I think this was at the time.
on June 3rd?
I don't have a date. I don't know a date.
Regarding this June 3rd email you sent to Mr. Tossich, you mentioned the restrictions 8 times, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Tossich's restrictions?
I don't understand.
What restrictions were you referring to?
I was referring to restrictions in general. It says it there. It says
Okay.
any restrictions.
Let me read to you. If your restrictions, who's your restrictions? Who are you referring
Mr.
to?
Tostich.
Okay, so Mr. Tossich did have restrictions at this time, correct?
If he's saying he did. My first statement there was I will get with Mr. Ornsby, your supervisor, to find out what your restrictions is or what restrictions, if any, you are under.
The doctor said at this time he had restrictions, correct, according to the CA-17 he
According
handed
to
in?
the CA-17, it says he has a hearing noise restriction.
This email was sent on June 3rd, 2011, correct?
Reply was on June 3rd, 2011, yes.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to read to you question number 22. ROI, page 00225. Did the complainant's May 2011 CA2 include a request for accommodation for his hearing condition? What specific accommodation was requested? Mr. Johnson, would you please read your answer to question number 22 of the ROI on page 00225?
To the best of my knowledge, no accommodation for this hearing was requested. For his hearing was requested. Mr. Tostich did tell me that he should work in an office to avoid loud noise. I advised Mr. Tostich that we recently had a decibel level test done, and it was determined that the areas he worked in were not a hazard.
What is a hazardous noise level?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Did Mr. Tosh's work in a hazard noise level condition?
I do not know off the top of my head.
You stated in here, it was determined that the area where he works is not a hazard. What did you mean by that?
That means that the replies or the levels that were recorded, I was told, are not a hazard.
What is a hazard?
Like I said, I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay. The statement you made under oath on page 00225 of the ROI is dated when?
November 30th, 2011.
The email was from you to him, was June 3rd, 2011, correct?
That's right.
Okay. You mentioned accommodate once, correct?
Yes.
Why did you mention restrictions in this June 3rd, 2011 email?
Probably because I was replying to the message up above that said I turned in an updated doctor's note related to my CA-17, which normally means restriction, as I have verbally mentioned.
Would you agree that Mr. Tosh's at this point in time asked for assistance?
I would think so.
Are you a doctor again, Mr. Johnson?
No.
Are you the decider on what is loud, low, or hazardous noise levels?
No.
Okay. You stated that there are programs that can be looked at for trying to provide work with an employee that has restrictions, correct?
Yes.
What type of programs were you referring to?
The DRAC committee, as well as any limited duty things, but mainly the DRAC.
Did you refer Mr. Toshich to the DRAC after reading this email and
I
sending a
told
response?
Mr. Tostich several times of how to contact the DRAC, or what needed to be done to contact DRAC.
Okay. There was no formal program or formal request in place for Mr. Toshich to request accommodation through the DRAC, am I correct? What are the formal procedures to request reasonable accommodation through the DRAC?
The individual writes a letter to his commander, to his boss or supervisor, letting him know he has limitations, okay, or asks for accommodations based on his medical documentation. That's my understanding of the
In this
program.
June 3rd email, 2011 email to you, was Mr. Toshich asking for assistance?
From what I'm reading here, the assistance he's asking for is Mr. Still leaving his stuff out on plain sight.
If an employee asks you verbally for a request for an accommodation in simple language, whose responsibility is it to send it to the DRAC?
According to what I've learned today, mine.
Okay. Did you ever get with Mr. Owensby regarding the June 3rd, 2011 email?
I believe I did.
Do you have any documents pertaining to this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you have any records, personal notes of getting with Mr. Owensby?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you supply anything concerning that June 3rd, 2011 email to Agencies Counsel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you segregate them for the CEO?
This particular email, not that I'm aware of.
We'll go to 252. There's 252. I need 252. This one. Wait, 225, 252. This one. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to hand you ROI page 00252. Did you tell Mr. Toshich in early June that the medical department would not accept his May 16th doctor's note, ROI page 00252, because of the way the note was worded?
Did I tell him that? Not that I'm aware of.
What did you tell him concerning his note of May 16,
I do
2011?
not remember having a conversation with Mr. Tostage about this note.
Did you have a conversation with Mr. Tostage about this note?
That's what I said. I do not remember having a conversation with Mr. Tostage about this note.
So this note was never sent to the medical unit?
I don't know if it was sent to the medical unit. I do not remember having a conversation with Mr. Tostage about this note.
This note was dated May 16, 2011, correct?
Yes,
Okay. On May 17, 2011, Mr. Tostage returned to work based on the medical documentation he supplied to you or your supervisors, correct?
if you say he did, I don't know if he.
How would Mr. Tostage get back to work on May 17, 2011?
How would he get back? I don't understand.
How would he be allowed to get back to work at the Postal Service by either yourself or Supervisor Owensby, based on his medical documentation?
Was he out of work?
On May 10th, Mr. Tostage was sent home by Mr. Owensby, based on your direction.
That's what you say, yes.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to give you page 00198 of the ROI. Medical log for Mr. Tostage up to June 17, 2011, correct?
History finding, diagnosis, treatment. Yes, from 7/20/2010 to 6/17/2011.
Can you find an entry for the doctor's note dated May 16, 2011 in the log?
No?
Mr. Tostage did return to work on May 17, 2011, correct?
I would have to pull text to see if Mr. Tostage was at work that day.
For the record, Mr. Tostage did return to work on May 17, 2011.
Okay?
Mr. Tostage is out for a week. He turns in a CA-17 with the restrictions and the typed doctor's note, yet it's not entered into the medical log. Do you know why?
Either he did not turn it into the medical unit or the supervisor he gave it to did not turn it in.
Look at the medical log again. Do you see any entry dated May 16, 2011 there?
No, I do not.
Okay. Can you explain why the documentation Mr. Tostage gave to return to work in maintenance never made it into the medical unit?
No, I cannot explain that.
It's 150. Mr. Johnson, I'll give you page 00150 of the ROI. It's affidavit A of page 47 of 103 also. Could you read Dr. Neese's note that Mr. Tostage brought in on June 17, 2011, after to whom it may concern?
It is my medical opinion that this patient would be better suited if at least half of his work hours were spent in a low noise, I can't read that word because it's condition. We will reevaluate Mr. Tostage's in 30 days.
At this point in time, did you submit Mr. Tostage's name to the DRAC? June 13, 2011.
I do not know.
Okay. Based on his restrictions, should he have been sent home?
I do not know. I do not have the CA-17 that the supervisor sent him home based on, so I do not know.
What does a person do when they have restrictions?
Normally, they request accommodations.
Accommodations. Based on this note in front of you, was Mr. Tostich sent home with these new restrictions on 6/16/12?
I do not know if Mr. Tostich was.
2011.
I do not know if Mr. Tostich was sent home.
Did you fill out a confirmation of request for reasonable accommodation for Mr. Tostich?
On that day, not that I'm aware of,
Why not?
because I didn't know I was required to.
Okay, for the record, the return to duty letter sent out by Supervisor Owensby dated August 30th, 2011 should be dated September 30th, 2011, and that was corrected in the ROI. Did you concur with charging Mr. Tostich AWOL on October 1st?
Concur, not that I remember.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, I'll give you page 00223 of the ROI. 16. Please refer to question number 16 in your affidavit. I'm going to read the question. Did you concur with the letter dated August 30th, 2011, corrected dated September 30th, 2011, concerning return to duty accommodation sent to the complainant by Supervisor Steve Owensby? Please read your answer to question number 16.
I probably did because Supervisor Owensby works directly for me.
You stated in the ROI that Mr. Owensby was unsure what to do with the CA2, correct?
I don't know if I stated that in the ROI or not, but that may very well be correct.
Was Mr. Owensby familiar with charging anyone AWOL?
I don't believe so.
Did he ever charge anyone AWOL before?
Not that I'm aware of.
So Mr. Owensby was unfamiliar with this process, correct?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Did you help Mr. Owensby charge Mr. Tostich AWOL?
Not that I remember.
Do you know who did?
No, I don't.
So Mr. Owensby, being a new supervisor, coming to you to fill out a CA2, or how to process a CA2, didn't come to you
I'm not
To
saying he
charge
didn't come to me. I said I don't remember.
to charge Mr. Tostich with AWOL?
I do not remember.
Did you receive or generate any emails concerning Mr. Tostich being AWOL?
Again, not that I remember. That's not to say I did not. I do not remember.
Were you aware Mr. Owensby at this time was charging Mr. Tostich AWOL?
At this time, I'm not sure. Was I aware that he charged him AWOL? Yes.
Did you do any checking on to see if Mr. Tostich might have been in a different status?
No,
Why not?
because I have over 200 some people I have to worry about. His supervisor worries about him individually.
Again, Mr. Tostich is your senior ET. He's been there 26 years plus. No concern, no discipline in his file, nothing? AWOL was okay?
No, AWOL's
Charge-
not okay.
What
But
did
I
you
trust
do?
my supervisors to make a call, and if that's what happened, okay, I'm sure Mr. Owensby did come and discuss it with me.
Again, AWOL's a very serious offense, correct?
It can be.
It can be. Is AWOL a very serious offense?
It can be.
Okay. Mr. Owensby never charged anybody else AWOL before, correct?
That I'm aware of.
That you're aware of. Mr. Owensby was a new supervisor, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Owensby came to you with other pertinent issues to running his operation or supervising any other employees, correct?
Yes.
Example, Mr. Tossich's CA2. Mr. Owensby did not know how to process it or file it, so he came to you, correct?
After he received opinions from others, yes.
Did Mr. Owensby come to you about Mr. Tosage's AWOL charge at any time?
I would believe he would have had to. He would have.
Do you know of anyone that would have checked to see if there had been any mistake in charging Mr. Tosage AWOL?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know why Mr. Tosage was charged AWOL?
I know I was told he was charged AWOL,
What were you told?
that he did not provide the proper documentation that was requested for unscheduled absences.
Who approves LWOP?
Who's what?
Who approves LWOP? Leave without pay.
The plant manager.
I'd like to enter to the record Exhibit 3, number 3, Attachment 6 to the response to complainant's request for production of documents from Dana Morris, counsel for the agency. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to give you a copy of Exhibit 3. Look at the highlighted area of the 3972. What was the last dated entry on the 3972?
The highlighted area?
Correct.
October, looked like October 30th.
Okay. Do the dates run up or down on the left-hand side?
Do the dates run up or down? On the left-hand side?
You're
they
referring to the last date, dated entry as October 30th, correct? What's the next day after that?
I'm sorry, that's September 30th.
Okay, so
October
again, let me
1st
ask the
is
question
next.
again. What was the last dated entry on the 3972?
On this one, September 30th.
Okay. Does it show any LWOP in any time in September?
Yes,
Who approved that LWOP?
it was FMLA. FMLA LWOP is approved automatically. The supervisor did.
Who approves LWOP?
Regular LWOP, the plant manager.
From September 18th, it looks like, to September 23rd, was Mr. Tosage in an LWOP status?
That's what it looks like.
Who approved that?
The supervisor loaded it.
Who would be his immediate supervisor at this time? The LWOP was recorded.
It would either, September should have been Steve Owensby.
Okay. For the record, let it be known that Mr. Tosage was given LWOP before October 1st, 2011, as supplied on the 3972 from the agency's counsel. By October 1st, 2011, had Mr. Tosage been out IOD for a couple of months?
I do not know.
Were you aware that Mr. Tosage was out?
I was aware Mr. Tostich was out.
As a manager, were you concerned why he was out?
Yes,
Did you voice those concerns to his supervisor?
yes.
What did his supervisor state in reference to Mr. Tostage being out?
Which time period are we talking about?
Prior to October 1st, 2011. Let me start all over, Mr. Johnson. By October 1st, 2011, Mr. Tostage had been out on IOD for a couple of months now,
Okay.
correct? What made you think that this had changed?